Hello, luncheon learners. I hope everybody's doing well today. Coach Bruce, thank you for being here with us today. You know what? Today is August the 8th, 2023, the only August 8th, 2023 you're ever going to have in your life. And today we decided to talk about discipline.
What episode number is it, Coach Juan?
I'm sorry, today's episode number 71. So we're
Wow.
striving every day. We'll put it in the work each and every single day to come and bring some value to you guys. So, like I
Yes.
say, today we're talking about discipline. And talking with Coach Bruce, like there could be a big it depends how do you view discipline. And I was telling Coach Bruce, growing up, discipline was kind of like a bad word for me. It was not in the service of, I guess, being productive. How would you say
Coach
that?
Juan, I think it was not a good word for any young person because it wasn't used in an encouraging way. It was usually used to direct you away from what you wanted to do. So you and I kind of settled on there's a major distinction. Discipline in the service of a self imposed goal is wonderful. It's supportive, it's productive, and in support of an exterior imposed goal, it's restrictive and confining. Coach says he wants to say something to me right now. Yes,
Your
me.
car is outside, okay? Don't forget
I
about
know. Thank you. Okay. Okay. So externally imposed versus self-imposed, and there's like night and day difference in terms of the response to discipline. Would you agree?
100%. Totally.
So do
And
you have an example of how that's worked for you?
yes. And you know what? And just going back to that, I was like, Bob Proctor used to say, discipline is when you give yourself a command and you follow it. But, I listened to Bob Proctor. 90% of the stuff that I study has a lot to do with Bob Proctor. But that, for some reason, didn't resonate with me when he said, discipline is when you give yourself a command and you follow it. And it wasn't until this morning when I went on TikTok and I listened to this lady talk about discipline equals freedom. I was like, what? So that gives you the freedom that opens up a new world for you. Like even to reach your goals, like, you have to discipline yourself in certain areas, certain activities that you do each and every single day in order for you to reach your goal. Like that was what Coach Bruce was talking about right now. Like in the service of reaching your goals. So if you're disciplining yourself each and every single day, whether it be reaching a goal, whether it be losing weight, working out, whatever that area that you're working on, discipline has everything to do with everything. So when you talk about freedom, when we talk about discipline now, it's no longer a bad word for me, Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah, Coach Juan, I used to coach people in a program called Self Expression and Leadership at this international what do you call it? Growth and development program, Landmark. And we did project development there. And the first stage of project development is formulation. You're creating the idea of what you're going to do, you know? And maybe you're brainstorming with other people. Maybe you're just doing it yourself. It's formulating why or what you're going to do. The next stage they call concentration. And they say this is where you're putting in 9 pieces of effort to get one piece of result. And those people who know automotives, it's like now we have these automatic cars, transmissions, but in the old days, you used to have to go from park to first gear to second to third and the fourth. And so the whole idea was you've got this big wheel that's starting the car up. And as the car begins to gain speed, you go to the next wheel and then the next, or maybe I'm reversing, maybe it's a small wheel, but it's taking a lot of effort. And eventually you get to fourth gear and now you're almost putting no effort in. It's just a little tap and you can go faster and let your foot off the gas and go slower. But that's the same thing with discipline. we had to work with our participants. And the idea is that, yeah, you're getting a lot of no's. You're inviting people to participate in your project, and people saying, "You're doing what? That's crazy. That's not you." And so, as their coach, we were there to like hold them during that negative period and say, "You're going to get to the next period," and that's called momentum. You're going to get to the point where you're actually putting in one piece of effort and getting 9 pieces of result. So the discipline is worth it if you stay in it long enough.
Yes, and I love that you're using a prime example, Bruce, about like the automatic versus the manual car. And I that's how my first car that I learned how to drive was stick shift. And sometimes you'd be driving down the road and you want to go from, let's say, 2 to third, or sometimes you put it in fourth gear, and what happens? Sometimes the car would turn off like it doesn't have the right momentum, it doesn't have the right gear. So when you come back to the third gear, then it takes off again with full momentum. But you try to skip a couple of those gears, and yeah, you're not gonna have the momentum that you're looking for.
Yeah, I love that, Coach Wine. Yeah, that was like a whole different experience, driving a stick shift car. My first car was a stick. And I remember my father went with me to the dealer to buy the car. And then he drove home. He says, "Do you know how to drive a stick?" Well, I had worked at a summer camp where we drove tractors. We would transport the kids on tractors and stuff like that. So, oh, yeah, I know how to drive. I take the car and I go on the highway. I'm going like 60, 70 miles an hour, and I get off, and there's a loop of, that's coming all the way. And right at the bottom of the loop, the exits, the little bridge, there's a stoplight. And I didn't know that you could put the car into neutral and put the brake on. So I'm going through the progression of fourth to third to second. And by the time I got into neutral, I was well past the stop. I was like, "Thank you, God. Thank you. You saved my life." So very quickly, I had to learn how to really work the stick shift. So when you're getting involved in something that is new to you, expect there's going to be some major hurdles, and just make sure that they're not life-threatening.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think everybody's got a great experience of learning how to drive. Like when we first learned how to drive, I was maybe 16 years old probably, but we used to live out in the country, out in the dairy, and there was a lot of open land, so there's a lot of fields, and my dad used to let us go and drive out there and just kind of stay within the country and not to go into the road. So and that's how I learned how to drive. And I had my cousin. My cousin used to live with us at the time. He was the oldest of us three at the time. That were 16. My brother was like 17. Then we had our cousin who was like 18. And he was never able to learn how to drive stick shift. And up to this day, he never picked up how to drive a stick shift. Now, like, how is it that he didn't get it when everybody else was getting, like me, my younger brothers, everybody in the family, even my mom knows how to drive stick shift. But I don't know why he couldn't get it.
I love that example because when you talk about your cousin, I think my son, years ago, I lived with this woman. She had 2 kids. She had a 5-year-old daughter. She had like a 4-year-old son. My son was 3 at the time. And they had a 16-inch bicycle, and we were going to teach the kids, especially the boys, to ride without training wheels. And I thought, this is a great event. This is like a father and son teaching moment. And so the boy who was older than Jeremy, whose name is Danny kept trying without training wheels, and he kept falling, and he was getting nervous. He was like beginning to weep a little bit. And Jeremy, he's a year younger than Danny, says, "Danny, come here. I'm going to show you." And he took the 16-inch bicycle without training, and he started zooming, like he'd been doing it all his life. And I'm like, I missed that father-son moment because I didn't have to teach my son because he was teaching the 5-year-old. I was disappointed. I was going to be this great dad that day, but instead, Jeremy was a great teacher, and he's still a great teacher. So projects sometimes could seem frightening, and given the right set of circumstances, they could seem like no problem.
Yes.
So you viewers, when you're going out to do a new project, anticipate it could be difficult, but know that with practice, with the discipline, it gets easier. And there's going to come a time, like you who know how to drive a car, you're like, I can't remember when I didn't know how to drive a car or riding a bicycle. I didn't know when I didn't have balance. You know, it's just going to be a part of who you are. But it's that discipline. You know, teachers gave us homework, and we didn't like homework.
No.
But the more we did the homework, the better we got.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, it's that self-imposed project. Discipline is supportive of what we're up to.
Mm-hmm.
Externally imposed, I don't wanna, you can't make me, no way, no, never, So that's the whole thing. And if it's something you really want, but there's a coach who's like bugging the heck out of you and making the discipline, the practice not fun, tune them out. Tune them out and tune yourself into, here's what's going to result when I master this thing. Don't get burnt out by somebody who's a tough coach. You know, they're coaching you improperly. A good coach really works with your desire to achieve.
Exactly. And another thing to think about too, Coach Bruce, like if anybody out there working in, let's say you work in the same business for over 5 or 10 years, if you really pay attention, there's some certain disciplines that you had to learn at the beginning of whatever business you're in now in order to be who you are today. Mm-hmm. And I always think about this when I was in my plumbing business, because I had to learn how to work the shovel. I didn't never held a shovel in my life. So when I got into the business, my dad was like, no, you're gonna break your back, you're gonna hurt yourself. Like, this is how you do it. You know, you grab the shovel and you throw the shovel up in the air, and what used to get me all the time, like, you know, when you do it right, like the shape of the shovel stays within the dirt until it lands. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. So you learn how to shove it and throw it. You don't just go all over the place. Like, there's a technique. If you learn how to use the techniques properly, man, you can have some amazing results.
That is amazing. And I agree. It's like learning any tool, learning the proper technique. You know, so sometimes it really works to learn from a master coach.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very tough first father-in-law who helped me with a lot of construction on my house. And he was an SOB, but he was 100% correct. He says 90% of any job is having the right tool.
Mm-hmm.
He would measure it exact. We were putting up drywall and we did windows too. Everything he did was measured beautifully, and things just like hot knife through butter. They went right into the right place. You know?
Yeah.
But I had to put my ego aside sometimes to work with him.
Yeah, and that's the same thing we do with our clients here too. Like, if you learn how to put your ego to the side, you're gonna have a lot more results and a faster in a better way. You're gonna have a better experience. And sometimes that's what I have to do. I still have to do that sometimes. Depends on what kind of projects I'm working on. If I have to put myself out of the way in order to do whatever it is that the team needs to do, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. So if we have to learn how to get out of our way in order to accomplish the goal that we set for the business or company, whatever it is that we're working on.
I agree, but I'm going to put a little spin on that, Coach Juan. Again, for the viewers, I have been much more creative over the last 6 months because of the ability to work with Coach Juan. You know, he's somebody that hasn't had any formal graphic arts training, you know, with the computer and stuff like that. But when I've got a project, I don't limit myself the way I might have in the past because I don't have anybody at hand who could help me make it beautiful. I got my buddy Coach Juan, who has taken zero knowledge and is very artistic, very masterful. It's like, Coach, here's what I want to create. Here's what I want us to create for the team. And Coach Juan is, let me check. And tomorrow, Coach has got a whole beautiful layout. So don't limit yourselves, guys. find teammates of that ilk, people who do things that you don't, and acknowledge the heck out of them. Find out what their love language is and supply them with that, because they're creating life for you that without them, you don't have that.
Exactly.
So that's my way of saying thank you, Coach Juan.
You're welcome, Coach Bruce. Thank you. Thank you. And guys, one thing that I want to share with you that I learned from Coach Bruce the other day, he says the three things that we are all looking for as human beings: we all want to be heard, we all want to be appreciated, and we all want to be validated. And he does that for me over and over each and every single day. And he does that for the rest of his clients as well. So thank you, Coach Bruce.
My pleasure, Coach Juan. It really is. I love our team, so I really do love our team. All right. Thank you all, Lunch and Learners, for spending a part of your lunch hour with us. And we wish you a very good rest of your Tuesday.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you.